like many of you, for this presentation, I chose a topic that I care very deeply about. I knew from almost the beginning of the semester that I was going to talk to you about our food system. I believe that our food system is broken in many ways that affect animal welfare, our health, and our environment. But I wanted to focus in on something more specific that I think we can all agree on. And that is that we should label food products that contain genetically modified organisms. In 1996, our food supply became unrecognizable from the way it was before, when GMOs. This was a large change, but it went almost entirely under the radar of the general public. For centuries, mankind has been altering our environment. We combine plants and animals together through breeding to get something that's more desirable. Plant and animal hybrids have been a very important part of farming and agriculture for a very long time. But GMOs and hybrids are not the same. When a GMO is created, DNA from an unrelated species is entered into the DNA of the target organism. This is referred to as transgenic manipulation. So why do we care about this? We care because over 3/4 of our food supply today contains GMOs in some form or another. This is a graph of the percentage of major genetically modified crops that are grown in our country. And I can imagine what you're thinking looking at this graph. When have I ever eaten a sugar beet? The truth is that when you look at sugar on an ingredient label, it's most likely not the cane sugar that you expect it to be. It's most likely a sweetener that is made from these sugar beets. In fact, if you've eaten any of these processed foods, the additives, preservatives, and sweeteners that are in these foods are most likely made from one or a combination of these crops. Current FDA policy says that we don't have to label foods containing these GMOs because they are substantially equivalent to what they would be before that. They taste the same, they smell the same, they look the same. But there are many reasons to consider when determining whether or not they really are the same. In her article for the Huffington Post, Carol Bartolotto, a registered dietitian, discusses how there are conflicting studies. There are studies done by the major biotechnology companies like Monsanto and Dow Chemical, who say that these GMOs are perfectly safe and there's no need to worry about them. But there are other studies done by other people, not the companies, who have found negative things like organ damage, infertility, and immune system changes. So the bottom line is they haven't been around long enough for us to really know for sure. One thing we do know is unsafe is pesticides. Some pesticides are necessary. Even organic food producers use some type of pesticide. But these GMO crops are produced to either make their own pesticides or to withstand higher levels of stronger and more dangerous pesticides. There's a type of corn that has a bacterial toxin inserted into its DNA so that it produces its own pesticide. And this is especially concerning to me because you can't wash off genetic code. There's also something referred to as Roundup Ready corn and soy. These plants will survive despite being sprayed with higher and higher levels of the Roundup brand herbicide. This is the stuff that we spray on driveways and sidewalks to kill everything. It's a proven hormone disruptor and carcinogen, meaning that exposure can cause serious health problems like cancer and birth defects. This is not something that we want in our food. Because of these health reasons, many developed countries around the world have either required labeling or outright banned GMOs. But the biotechnology companies in this country have spent millions of dollars fighting labeling legislation around the United States. On their side are the processed food companies who use their products, and a suspicious level of former biotechnology executives, lawyers, and consultants that are working within the decision-making agencies of our own government. They would have you believe that the required label would look something like this. According to the Monsanto company website, they claim that mandatory labeling could imply that food products containing these ingredients are somehow inferior to their conventional or organic counterparts. But in reality, the labels would look just like the labels that are already put on food products overseas. Only a small line indicating genetic engineering among all the other ingredients. They can still sell their products the same way they always have been, but the people who are looking will have more information. There are a number of other claims that these companies give as reasons why we shouldn't require labels. And I don't want to end this presentation without discussing a few of them briefly. They say that their products are no different, so why require a label? But this is in direct conflict to the fact that they have acquired patent protection and intellectual property rights, giving them ownership of these seeds because of those very differences. They say you can just buy organic food because by law, organic certification means that you can't have GMOs within certain limitations. But this is not realistic. Organic food is not readily available and it's more expensive. The processed food companies say that it will be a burden to them to put a label on these foods. But these are large multinational corporations that are already doing this very thing overseas. They know how to do it, they just don't want to. They try to scare you by saying that food prices will go up. But according to Tom Philpott, writing for Mother Jones, food prices would remain largely unchanged. Adding a line to a label is a trivial expense. And even if consumer choices and the market cause them to have to use non-GMO ingredients, this is a very small percentage of the actual cost of the products. Most of the costs that you see when you buy something in the store is transportation, marketing, and the actual processing, not the individual ingredients. In summary, food should be simple. Every day we make choices about what we eat and where it comes from. Right now, the majority of our foods that we eat have been altered drastically, and we haven't had a chance to fairly weigh in on whether or not we are okay with this. Requiring a label on these types of products will allow consumers to decide for themselves whether or not they want to be part of this ongoing experiment. In the meantime, I urge you to avoid GMOs by eating less processed foods, cooking from whole ingredients, and buying organic if you can. But regardless of what foods you choose to eat, I think we can all agree that a simple label is not too much to ask for. Please check out this website, gmofreepa.org, where you can find more information about this and about labeling legislation that is currently active in our state legislature here in Pennsylvania.